My name is Ana María Millán, and I grew up in Cali, Colombia. Cali is the third city in Colombia, and I have to say it's always warm. So people go outside very often. It's normal to be outside. So it combine like a nice neighborhood with friends, but also my mother is a painter, and in front of my house there was a painter atelier, so I grew up there, and this was my first contact with art. Then I decided I wanted to be an artist, like my mother, and I went to study in Bogota, which is the capital of Colombia, and then I started to do installations, and I became very familiar with feminist video art, which was very surprising for me during this time. So I decided to start making videos in Bogota. Then I moved back again to Cali, and I finished my study there, the bachelor degree. And it happens that Cali, as I said, is always warm, and the campus of the university was not a campus, was the street. So we used to hang out as students in the street. So it happens that it makes me to have contact with musicians, with graphic designers, so it was not divided. We all used to hang out on the street in front of the very small university I used to study. So this was then I started to do these mixed videos with found footage, with music, with animation. And one of the first videos I remember and I like a lot is Tour 2004, that bring to the video different gigs of punk music in Cali. These were all my friends who participated in the video. And it reminds me how I grew up in art. There was another step, and is that I used to have an editing suite with Andrés Sandoval, and to survive, to make some money, we used to make animations for other people to survive, so as a paid job. When we both became interested in animation as a tool, and with the time, we also say, no, we don't want to work more for other people. We wanted to find also the path to get our own fundings to make the animations. This was another step, and it reminds me one of another work that is Ataque Vampiro, like vampire attack, that is related to local stories about vampires in Cali, Colombia. So we made a collective during this time, and we did together at a vampire attack. Another part of my background is the art collective Elena Producciones. When we were in the last semester in the university, we were thinking about strategies to continue our life as artists, and it was not easy. So we decided to create a platform so we could continue being artists and continue with the dialogue we used to have in the university. Now we are 5 people in the collective: Claudia Patricia Sarria, Gustavo Racines, Wilson Diaz, Andres Sandoval, and me. And we, after 21 years, continue making things, and we have organized a performance festival for 20 years in Colombia, and it also gave us the possibility to maintain us active as artists. The selection of the artwork for the Gwangju Biennale was basically a conversation between the curators, Daphne Ayas, Natasha Gimbala, Michelangelo Corsario, Cristina Junia. We had lots of conversations related to the issues of the biennial. And finally, we decided to choose 2 proposals. One was Elevación. Elevación is an animation I did in 2019 in Bogota, in Colombia, and it was in the framework of an exhibition and commission for the Museum of Modern Art of Bogota, Museo de Arte Moderno de Bogota, the Mambo, for which I worked with 8 artists from Bogota, like great artists, who brought for a workshop their alter egos or their avatars to make a narrative, a collective narrative. So it is the methodology also I have developed for like the last 10 years, that I have created this like role play methodologies to make collective narrations, which normally end in films, in animations, or in video games. So in this case, for Elevation, the artists from Bogota brought their characters, their avatars, and based on a comic book about the history of the resistance in Colombia, we created the script for the final animation. After the workshop that lasts 1 month, more or less, in the studio, I did the modeling of the characters, and then the rigging, which is the movement of every character, and then the animation. After all this process, a musician normally does the sound design, and it ended in Elevation, which is an animation that will be in the biennial. It was also like a very deep conversation, because the narrative of the role play we did in Bogota was based on the on this comic book about the political resistance in Colombia, which also is related to the Gwangju uprising. So that's the reason we choose this work. It's very difficult. It's a difficult question because it's difficult to survive as artist, I have to say. But I think what keeps me motivated and interested in my work is the dialogue I have with the people, basically. Is the dialogue we started with Elena Producciones in the collective, about community work, about collective work, about resistance, about politics, about history. Is also the dialogue I started in the editing suite, in the editing studio and animation studio with Andrés Sandoval in the 90s. Is the dialogue also I have with the different groups I work every time to do the role plays, because the role play is a common space. It's a space that we create together, and we try to restore the meaning that the capitalist society has stolen from us. What keeps me motivated is all this, like the debate and dialogue about history, politics, and also the fight and the struggle for women's rights. GB selection and like previous work, I have to say that after like lots of conversations with the curators, we spoke about the methodology I have used the last 10 years of my career. And I remember I started to structure this methodology in 2015 with a residency I did in Mexico City in the neighborhood Santa María de la Ribera. I did the residency under the framework of Insight, Casa Gallina Insight, with the curatorial advice of Josefa Ortega and Osvaldo Sanchez. And I was in Mexico for 2 years, like coming and going. And I decided to continuing with the tradition of the animations I have done before in the editing suite. I used to have to like speak about video games and animation, and how to twist this narrative, this capitalist narrative they have, and this like military approach they have. So how to twist it. So I decided during this residency in Mexico City to work with 6 gamers of Santa María de la Ribera. And after 1 year of conversations, collective dialogue, we created 6 characters that that combines different narratives at the same time, and created 6 different words. And after the narrative, I did the animation in partnership with an animation studio in Mexico City. So I remember for the conversations about the Gwangju Biennial, we spoke a lot about this past piece. And also after this, I did another piece that was Tres Caras, for which I collaborated with different role players here in Berlin. So they teach me how to do a role play, like a desk game with dices. because for the past piece, for the piece I did in Mexico City, which is Wanderlust, I use not dices to do the role play. So for the next piece, which was Tres Caras and then Doble Faz, I learned how to structure the role plays with dices here with 2 role players in Berlin. And the narrative of the role play was based on a comic book that has like a villain, and the villain was a comic produced in the United States, and the villain was a Colombian villain that was like a drug-powered villain, and the superheroes from United States, the mission was to kill the villain in Colombia, in the jungle. So I wanted to twist this narrative, and through the role play I learned here in Berlin, I did like a whole work twisting this narrative of this comic book. So this was another piece that ended in an animation based on a role play. And after this, I did one based in a role play I did in Rotterdam, in the Kunstinstituut Meli, where I was showing Wanderlust and Tres Caras as an exhibition. So I organized like a very short role play, 1-day role play there, and it was based on the diaries of a guerrilla girl in Colombia. So this ended in another animation, which is called Este Viento Amor, which is the title of a song. And all these like past pieces gave us like the keys to understand how could the role play, how could be the role play in Gwangju. So we spoke with the curators a lot about these past pieces, and we based our methodology to do the work there like this. The characters were designed by the students during the workshop. So they are their characters, basically, which perform or participate in the collective narration during the workshop. But I have to say, to speak about these characters, we have to speak also about people, because behind every character there is a person, like a real person. So we spoke a lot about them. We also spoke a lot about feminism in animation, and how all the history of the Korean animation, how is the play of the women in the Korean animation history. So I think every character was also related to this conversation. We have, for example, a genderless Catholic cat, which is very particular because it's Catholic, but it's genderless, and it's a cat. And the power of the cat is to bring light to the path of the others. for example, this is one character, and it's just I in the past question I just spoke about the jellyfish. The jellyfish, it is a feminist character, and it is the spirit guide of the whole game. It was related. The creation of the character was related to all the story of the feminist gamer collective. So the jellyfish is like a guide. We have other characters, for example, Ansayo, who do like a blood wall to save her friends, and is related to all them to the history of all the indigenous past of Korea as well. So every character is related to a person history, but is related also to the dialogue we had during the workshop. I went to Korea in January 2020, and I did the same. I started with the same methodology I have used the last 10 years of my career. We organize with Jess like a role play workshop with gamers, manga students, people with imaginary friends in Gwangju. And this was like the mission of the role play and the workshop we organized then in Gwangju was to do a video game that would be shown in the biennial parallel to Elevación. So with the same locations I used to Elevation or to Elevación, and with very related narratives to Elevación situation, that means situations, we brought all these characters that every student have to play or to live, and we solve the situations, like the problems that normally as narrative points in the role play, and we created a new script during the workshop in Gwangju. It was like amazing because also it was all related to the history of animation in Korea, which is very also related to the history of animation in Colombia. I was thinking about the relation between Korea and Colombia, and I was thinking we have like lots in common, the Pacific Ocean in common, which make us like powerful countries and make also like more powerful countries like come to us. That means like we have a lot of like USA influence in both countries. We also grew up with the history of animation in Colombia. We grew up with many USA products and also influence that normally comes through the ocean. I mean, like comes from like different like parts, let's say, of the ocean, of the Pacific Ocean, or the desire to be in the Pacific Ocean. So I was thinking in this like both sides of the Pacific. We are in just opposite sides also of the earth. And this was one of my main like questions, or like my main thoughts about the relation of the two pieces. And then how the history of video art can be brought into account to solve this question. How the history of how the tools of video art can be like used also to create new narrative about these relations. Now I am working in a project in Colombia, and I am working with a feminist group there called Las Andariegas. And the project is to do also a video game based on a role play. I have to say, in fact, the first time I do a video game is with you, with the Gwangju Biennial. So it was very new for me to do all the programming and to understand how a role play can be translated into a video game. And with all the understanding, and I have this year with you, I will do my next project in Colombia with the feminist group Las Andariegas, which will be shown in September in the space called Fragmentos, which was also based on a sculpture of by Doris Salcedo. She did the floor of the space, and then the government of Colombia managed the space, the Ministry of Culture, and I am working with the fellowship of the Ministry of Culture, and I will present the new work there in this space. September in the show, but also I try all the relations and all the projects I do with groups look always for a long-time relationship. So let's say the relation continues, the project ends normally, but the relation continues.